When it comes to the federal response to hurricanes, it may look like on TV that everything's happening at the White House or at the Capitol, but in reality, FEMA is making their decisions here at this nondescript office building about a mile south of the National Mall. The federal response, though, goes well beyond supplying generators and water. It's about optics, too.
When you're coordinating all these institutions.
Those optics include the president getting a briefing on the hurricane, not from the Oval Office or the Situation Room, but from FEMA headquarters, a place where more key staffers work should an important question or issue arise. Make no mistake, though, the most important thing the federal government can do when it comes to hurricanes is approving something known as a disaster declaration. This is the form Governor DeSantis had to fill out to get one declared. President Biden approved it within hours of the storm making landfall. A disaster declaration allows federal funding to begin to flow to local and state governments. It also creates assistance for residents who live in the most impacted areas. For instance, this could include grants for temporary housing and home repairs or low-cost loans to cover uninsured property losses. With that now approved, a big part of the federal response will be listening and responding to concerns from local leaders. It's why the White House is quick to report any phone calls the president has had with the governor of Florida or mayors. In 2005, former President George W. Bush faced criticism by local officials in New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina for not being accessible and taking too long to make decisions. In Puerto Rico, initially, President Biden faced criticism by some local leaders for not waiving a shipping law so that fuel from a non-American ship could reach the island sooner. That criticism eventually prompted the president to issue the waiver so that the island can continue its recovery from Hurricane Fiona. This week, President Biden visited Puerto Rico and promised that assistance won't end once the hurricane stops making the news. On Wednesday in Florida, President Biden made a similar pledge. It's possible Hurricane Ian becomes the costliest disaster in Florida history. The most expensive hurricane in the country's history remains Hurricane Katrina. Over $110 billion in federal taxpayer support went to that storm. In Washington, I'm Joe St. George.
The images from Puerto Rico are just as heartbreaking as those from Florida. This woman in the town of Dorado is relying on 2 generators every day to take care of her mother.
No, verdaderamente aquí no se apagan porque yo quito una y pongo la otra por mi mamá porque pues no puedo tenerla ya que está encamada.
Hurricane Fiona hit last month, exactly 5 years after Hurricane Maria. Maria, a Category 5 hurricane, led to the deaths of an estimated nearly 3,000 people, leaving scars still visible on this island and on the emotions of survivors like Omar Gonzalez, who now lives in Utah.
It was sad, and also knowing that how many poor people were suffering.
While Puerto Rico's pain is still fresh in his mind.
Well, let's try a new one.
Pulitzer Prize-nominated political cartoonist Lalo Alcaraz told me it needs to be for more people.
The royal funeral coverage was drowning out everything only for the last 10 days, you know.
Fiona hit just days after the death of Queen Elizabeth, which grabbed the world's attention.
Suddenly, Puerto Rico is going through their thing again with Hurricane Fiona. Then this popped in my head of the Queen, the crown, literally blocking the picture, and I was like, there's the simple, elegant idea.
While President Biden's visit last Monday.
We're going to make sure you get every single dollar promised.
And the millions of dollars he's sending to the island to help rebuild and prepare for the next storm will help. It is just a step on a long journey to recovery.
Bueno, hay que verla, tener calma, paciencia para poder sobrellevar la situación. No nos debemos de desesperar porque aunque nos desesperemos debemos de guardar la calma.
We're in a devastated Fort Myers neighborhood where struggling residents feel left behind due to historical racial inequities. Next on The Race.